Hello guys, I thought about making a different video today. I'm gonna be talking about how I became a pilot. I feel like I don't talk about me being a pilot a lot. You know how we pilots are, we try not to say we're pilots. um, it seems like there's this concept that pilots always try to say they're pilots, but I try not to, but sometimes we can hold it in, guys. That's just us pilots. We're proud of who we are. We put a lot of work and sacrifice into it, so we're in our right to be proud of it. But I'm gonna be saying the story of how I became a pilot, pretty much. So hop in. I'll try to make this short as I can, actually, but it's a long story, so here we go. So first off, let's rewind all the way back to when I was a kid. My father pretty much is the one who inspired and motivated me to be a pilot. Why do I say that? Because ever since I was like really little, my father used to call me always captain. Hey captain, since I was little. He used to say it in Spanish, right? Because I was born in Puerto Rico and I grew up there. So he used to tell me, Capitan, Capitan for everything. Oye, Capitan, esto, lo otro, right? So, and that was because he loves aviation. He never got the chance to be a pilot, but he got the chance to grow up in that environment, with a lot of pilot friends and being a helicopter mechanic, right? He's an helicopter mechanic. He's not doing that anymore, but he used to. And he grew up in that environment, right? And he always wanted to be a pilot, but he never got the chance to be a pilot. He never had the support from his father. So I was blessed that actually he said, you know what, I want the same thing happening to my son. I'm gonna support him. I'm super grateful with God that he gave me this, my father and my parents that are really supportive. So again, he also always used to talk to me about aviation since I was little. He taught me about the principles, the four forces of flight, and he used to always call me a captain. So that was basically the root of it. As I grew up, right, I always said, like, when I was in high school, I was thinking really hard, trying to be ahead and thinking, what am I gonna do once I get out of high school? What am I gonna do? Until one day I decided that I wanted to be a pilot. I wanted to actually continue that path that my father could never continue. So pretty much I said, okay, I'm just gonna sign up to the university. And after thinking so hard for it, I was in like an analysis paralysis state. I was like, I don't know what for sure. I like a couple different things. I like music as well. I wanted to study as well some sort of music production and all of that, but I said I want to be a pilot, and it's the best decision I took. Because basically, as I grew up, my father was always talking to me about aviation, right? But I never liked it. Like, I used to be like, it's not that I didn't like it, but sometimes it became a little bit annoying how he was always talking to me about aviation and calling me captain. Calling me captain never bothered me, but sometimes he was talking to me about aviation and really frequently I was like, until I actually ended up loving it. Once I did my first discovery flight, I was like, oof, I love this. So, right, going back to what I was saying, I signed up to university in Puerto Rico, and I actually started my bachelor degree in a Part 141 university over there. I did my first demo flight over there, and after that it was close. It was a done deal. Like, I knew I wanted to be a pilot, and I have flown in helicopters before, in like Robinson's R-22 and R-44s from my father's friend, which he is a helicopter owner. So I already knew how flying was and how cool it was. And my thought process was like, dude, being a pilot, you get to travel the world, you get paid nicely, and it's such a good, reputable career, such a prestigious career, right? I used to think about seeing pilots and seeing how cool they look. They get to travel the world. They fly these big machines. So to me, that was always amazing. Ever since a certain point in my life on, I used to think like it was so amazing, right? So I signed up for the university, Part 141 university, and I started my bachelor degree. And basically, the process of getting my private pilot's license was pretty tedious because I don't come from a rich family. So it was tough. My parents were helping me a lot to pay for the flight hours. I'm really grateful for that. And I also at some point was in university, and working 2 jobs. I used to work in retail in a clothing store, a really famous clothing store in a mall, and I work in many different places. And I also work as a ramp agent. So I was trying to, save money so I can pay for flight hours. And it was tough at some points. It was really frustrating because I was in a pretty bad university. It was pretty bad, guys. I wasn't flying and a lot as much as I should have, and the weather in Puerto Rico is kind of crazy, right? It's a tropical island, so it rained every day in different parts of Puerto Rico. So that means that a lot of flights got canceled. I wasn't getting scheduled a lot. At some point, I was flying once per week. So that means I had to repeat a lot of my lessons over and over because I got rusty in between lessons, right? I was losing the practice, the motor skills that I have gained in the past lessons. So it was pretty bad university, honestly. The school didn't have a lot of airplanes. They had like 5 Piper Archers and 1 Diamond and 1 Multi, which was a Seminole, right? So for the amount of students the school had, there was too little amount of planes. So I ended up getting my private pilot's license with 80 something hours, which is crazy. It's super high, and it ended up costing me much more than it should have because of repeating lessons and whatever. So it was a pretty frustrating process, but thanks to God, I pushed through. I got my license and I got out of that school. I said, screw this, I'm not continuing this school. But the good thing about it as well was that, and why I say it shouldn't have taken me that amount of hours, 80 something hours to get a private pilot license, is because the average to get a private is 60 hours. Again, that depends on how proficient and how hard you study and all the effort you put in. Me, I've always been a guy that puts a lot of effort, especially in things that I'm passionate about. I've always have good grades in school, and I've always been pretty dedicated and serious with things that I'm interested on. So this is something I've always been taken serious. Aviation is no joke, right? So I got out of school when I got my private, and throughout my progress of getting my private, I think I failed my stage 2 check like 3 times, which was pretty frustrating for me. But besides that, I did pretty good. I've considered myself a really good pilot. My flying skills are good. So, and we'll continue talking about that later on, of how my progress of how I became even a better pilot as time passed. But I went out, after I got my private, the money situation was kind of tough. So I actually was, I stopped flying for like 3 years, guys, after I got my private, which was a huge delay, but things happen in life, It isn't easy for everybody. I stopped for 3 years, and in that 3rd year, man, I got so frustrated with being like delaying my career like this, and I just decided one day all of a sudden, I said, you know what, screw this, I'm gonna continue it. Because I was trying to do this without taking loans, right? Without putting myself in debt or my parents, right? So that's why I didn't continue after getting my private. I didn't continue my training because I was doing it without loans. I was just doing it with pure effort and my parents' help. So after I got my private and those 3 years passed without me flying, I got frustrated and I said, you know what, man, I'm gonna take a huge leap in life. I'm gonna take this huge risk, and I'm just gonna go ahead and, instead of continuing my training here in Puerto Rico, I'm gonna go to the US, because US has much better schools with accelerated programs in which you can continue your training. And by the way, guys, I went to a Part 141 school in Florida, in around the Daytona area, which is a pretty busy airspace. So it's actually good because it makes you a better pilot. And in another video, guys, if you're interested in this topic, we can talk about 141 school versus Part 61 schools. Guys, I'm a professional in that topic. If somebody you were to listen to advice from which of the two to do, it's me, because I had such a bad experience in 141 school. I know all their tricks and gimmicks. I know about Part 61 schools because I've been a pilot and a flight instructor at both Part 141 school and 61 school. So I know a pretty good amount of the topic. So if you guys can comment down below if you want to listen to more about that. So I started in Florida to did my training all the way from instrument rating all the way to CFII, and all the way to multi-engine. Multi-engine I did it in another school in the Orlando, Florida area, but from instrument to CFII was in a school around the Daytona area, and it was a great experience. It was a great experience in a really good school. I wish I would have taken that leap and that decision to go out here to the US and finish my training here. I would have gotten my training, dude, in under a year and a half or 2 years. I would have been already from private to CFII. And at this point, years later, after I finished all my training and after getting so many flight hours as a flight instructor, at this point, if I would have decided to do my training in the US, I would have already been a captain in a regional airline, guys. I'm not a captain in a regional airlines. I'm still flight instructing and building hours. But if I would have did that earlier, you know, I would have been already a captain in a regional because it delayed me so much, right? So I want to give you that advice, guys, to never, ever stay in a school that is bad. Go to a school that is safe and in which you build your hours really quickly. More about that in another video if you want to hear more about that in the comments. But like I was saying, I had a really good experience doing my training in that school in Cessna 172s with G1000. Amazing. It was more expensive, the flight hour, than in Puerto Rico, but the training overall ended up being less than if I did it in Puerto Rico, just because of the fact that I was flying more often and it was a better school overall with more planes, a big amount of planes, a huge fleet. I had a really good experience. I turned into a flight instructor there, and yeah, I did some flight instructing there. Then after that, I worked in another flight school as a flight instructor around the Florida, in Florida as well, in which I built a significant amount of hours. And yeah, I can talk more about that in my experience as a flight instructor, and good experiences and bad experiences I've had so far as being a pilot, and a lot of the learning lessons that I've learned. So I'm loving so far the process of being a flight instructor, yeah, flight instructing and being a pilot, guys. Turning into a pilot, the flight training is tough. It's a lot of sacrifice and effort you gotta put in, a lot of studying. So it ain't easy, but it's pretty rewardable at the end of your training. It's a good career in which you can make a lot of money. If it's your passion, you'll never work a day in your life, right? Because you're flying planes, and if you like to travel as well, it's something that was huge for me. You get to travel the world. So it's really rewarding after all this effort I put in, guys, after all this sweat and effort that I put in from myself and from all the supporting from my family. I can say that I'm a flight instructor. You know, I've been a flight instructor now for 2 years, and it's been a crazy ride. I made a lot of good friendships, a lot of good experiences, especially coming from Puerto Rico, which I live most of my life over there. And I've only been 3 years and a half over here in Florida. So it's been a crazy ride, man. So many good friendships and experiences that I made. I made brothers. So many good and bad experiences in flight training, but most of them good, majority of them. And yeah, I did pretty good in my instrument training, guys, because in Puerto Rico, within those 3 years after I got my private, I wasn't just hands crossed doing nothing. I wasn't flying, but I had a simulator that I bought, a really cheap simulator that I bought from a friend of mine. Actually, a friend of my father gifted it to me. It was just a joke. So I plugged that joke into my laptop, and I was using the Flight Simulator X from Microsoft, and I was practicing approaches over there. I was practicing approaches, and also I bought the Jepsen for instrument, the huge Jepsen book. I bought it and I read it entirely, and I also got my written test done before I started my instrument training, before I decided to even move to Florida. So I was doing stuff. I wasn't just cross arms doing nothing. I was trying to get ahead in a way that when I took that decision to continue my training, I will already be one step ahead. But these flight schools are a business, right? So even though I have my written done, when I entered the flight school over here in Florida, and I started my instrument training, they still made me take the ground school, even though I didn't need it because I already had my flight school, right? Because they wanted to make money, and that was how their program is. You know, it's a business, right? Schools can be like that, right? Really money thirsty. So besides that, I don't take any credit away from the school. It was really good. And yeah, like I was saying, that was how my instrument was. So that means that since I was already prepared and I already studied ahead in Puerto Rico, and I was flying instrument approaches in the flight simulator, even though I didn't have a lot of idea of what I was doing, I had a little bit of experience. So that made my instrument training much easier, guys. One license that was the easiest for me was instrument rating, guys. It was so easy and so enjoyable for me. It wasn't even that challenging. I loved it. I think instrument rating was my favorite rating I did. I had a really good instructor that ended up being really good friends to me, with me until this day. He's a Polish guy from Poland. So, and my instrument rating was the easiest rating I've done and the more enjoyable one. Then I did my commercial, which was kind of challenging, especially the commercial maneuvers. And at that point, I was like kind of like a little bit tired of all these maneuvers and all these specific standards that I needed to meet. I already was like, I want to finish my training already so I can become a flight instructor and start making money. A lot of you guys that are on that struggle will understand, you know, when you're spending so much money and no money is coming in from being a pilot, it can get a little bit tough sometimes. So I was like, I want to finish all these maneuvers and I just want to be a flight instructor and start flying already for money. I'm tired of all these standards that I had to meet. I'm tired of keeping these standards to do chandelles, to do lazy A's, etc., etc. So, and yeah, after that, I got to be a flight instructor, and it's been a wild ride. It's been a wild ride, but and that's where we are right now. We're a CFI and CFII. I got my multi-engine rating. What I don't have is MEI, and I don't think I will be getting my MEI because I don't feel like I need it. Sure, it will look good to have it, but I don't need it. Thanks to the Father, to God, I have no check ride failure. I have my difficulties in my training, but no check ride failures. I put a lot of effort, and like I said, guys, I take my training and aviation really seriously. So whenever I went to a check ride, I made sure that I was ready. If I was having a little bit of doubt, postpone the date. I'm gonna keep studying, I'm gonna keep practicing. Even if it costs a little bit extra money, guys, and it costs you 1 or 2 more flights extra, do that extra flights before you go to the check ride, guys. Because remember, a check ride failure stays on your record. A couple dollars extra that you spend on extra flights, you can make back. So that's a little bit of advice I will give you there, and I will leave it here now because video is getting kind of long. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. If you want to hear more about these stories and more to detail about how I became a pilot and anything about aviation, let me know. I'm here to help you guys. I wish to be the mentor to you guys, the mentor that I never had, that I didn't have when I was doing my training. So yeah, guys, follow please and subscribe. I'm trying to grow my following here on YouTube. And leave any comments. Feel free to say whatever, you know, if you have any questions or want any advice or whatever, let me know. Thank you guys for watching. Bye-bye.